Hobbit. So I just got back from seeing The Hobbit in the movie theater, and overall I am surprised by how different the personality of the story is in comparison to Lord of the Rings. Now, I didn't read The Hobbit, and while I did like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I'm not exactly the biggest fan. But I was looking forward to going back to Middle-earth, and this time it is like a trip back in time with a fun bunch of dudes. This movie is very similar to Fellowship of the Ring, so if you had problems with the pacing and the walking around and the running around in Fellowship of the Rings, this is not much better from the point of view of story pacing. But what is different is that this time you are hanging out with a fun bunch of characters. This is a funner, more light-hearted story. Everybody's not taking themselves as seriously as in Lord of the Rings, probably because there's not a big-ass, huge-ass war against evil going on. But that being said, I really liked the dwarves. The dwarves are rambunctious, they're out to have a good time, and they're the kind of characters that when they reach Rivendell and they look at the salads that the elves gave them to eat, they're like, what the fuck is this shit? Where are our hamburgers? So not only are the dwarves funner characters, but they also live in this movie that simply allows people to not be so serious all the time. What I did not like about the dwarves is that they do not seem very capable of handling shit. Throughout the first segment of the adventure that is presented in this movie, they are constantly getting into trouble and not really being able to get themselves out of trouble without Gandalf saving them. Gandalf is a badass in this movie. Like, without Gandalf, the quest would be over in the first 10 minutes. And as I understand it, this is pretty accurate to what was going on in the book. And also, Thorin makes it a point that these are not warriors that are gathered in this company. They are, toy makers, barbers, pogo dancers, whatever. Basically, they are not 12 little Gimlis. But all that being said, Thorin is still not the inspiring leader figure that Aragorn was, and a big part of that is that he's pretty hypocritical, specifically because of this hypocrisy where he's like, oh, Bilbo, he shouldn't be in this company, that he's just a hobbit, he should have stayed home, he doesn't help, he's a burden, he's blah blah blah. Like, dude, you know what, you cannot seem to get your ass out of trouble half the time, so why don't you hold off on the bullshit attitude? Speaking of Bilbo, I think Martin Freeman was great in this role because he also had more to do acting-wise than Elijah Wood in The Lord of the Rings. Specifically because Bilbo has more emotions to go through at the beginning. He's irritated that these dwarves are, taking over his shit, and then on a whim he decides to go on an adventure. While on the adventure he also has to grow and kind of prove himself. And that's pretty much the entirety of what Frodo had to do in 3 movies, but just condensed in 1 movie. One of my favorite scenes with Bilbo is the one with Gollum. Gollum is in this movie, has a great time, has a great scene. It's the kind of scene that allows both of the characters to be explored and to show more sides of them, especially Gollum. Like, who would have thought that Gollum likes riddles and shit? Whatever problems I had with the movie are small by comparison with these big issues. I mean, I didn't understand, for instance, why they made it a point to make us care about the ponies, and then the ponies are just fucking gone. What the fuck happened to the brown wizard? Why couldn't they just get the big-ass birds at the beginning of the movie? Why didn't I get to see Smaug? Why? And if I can't see a big-ass dragon like I wanted, can I at least hear him? Can I at least hear Benedict Cumberbatch's awesome fucking dragon voice? Regarding the frame rate, I needed, I think, about 10 minutes or so to get used to it. At the beginning, it did feel strange. It did feel like me with my glasses, I need to put the IMAX glasses over my regular glasses. I felt like I was watching it without my regular glasses. While I do appreciate the big action set pieces that they had for this, I have to admit that my favorite scenes were the ones that did not imply any major action. Although I think like I said, my favorite scene in the movie is probably the Gollum Bilbo scene, and with Gollum you need CGI, so I can't really say that my favorite scenes did not involve CGI necessarily, but it did involve like intimate conversations between characters. Also, the Goblin King is awesome. Like the Goblin King is one of those characters that seem to be self-aware, like he knows that he's in a big ass fantasy movie and he needs to be as entertaining as possible. So he wasn't really like a threatening presence as much as he was, oh look, it's that Goblin King dude, he's awesome. But The Hobbit is a kind of movie that allows characters like that to exist. So this is a return to Middle Earth, but it's like, it's the frat party version of Lord of the Rings, basically.